Thank you very much indeed, Nakagawa-san, for your very kind introduction. And Excellency and distinguished guests, on behalf of the Asia-Pacific Initiative and International House of Japan, I would like to warmly welcome you all to this event public conference, Europe and Japan in the Changing World, which we co-host with CSDS of Free University of Brussels. I'm particularly glad to see so many faces of my old friends, as well as new ones. And particularly after the difficult COVID days, we couldn't organize this kind of conference, international conference, for many months and years, but finally, we could organize this kind of important events here in Tokyo. And I'm also very glad to host you at this beautiful house of International House of Japan, because the API is now integrated with this International House of Japan. So we are under the same umbrella. I think that we are now overcoming the COVID difficulty of COVID restrictions. But at the same time, we are living in a very difficult world because of so many problems. We are now facing threat in Ukraine after the Russian invasion there. And also we have to worry about insecurity, instability around the Taiwan Straits. So there are so many concerns in the world which we are now facing. But together, between Japan and the European Union or European countries, I think that we can overcome these difficulties which we are now facing. For this reason, I'm particularly glad to be able to organize this conference with CSDS, which now has a brilliant Japan chair, and which now is trying to enhance the program relating to Japan or the relationship between Japan and the European Union. So now we have tools to solve difficult issues. So for that reason, I'm really looking forward to the discussion of today because we can have many, many wisdom with which we can overcome these difficulties. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Professor Hosoya. The next set of welcoming remarks will be delivered by Dr. Luis Simón. Dr. Luis Simón is a Director of Center for Security, Diplomacy and Strategy, and a Research Professor in International Security at the Brussels School of Governance. Dr. Simón is a frequent lecturer on geopolitical and strategic affairs, and his work has been widely published. Dr. Simón holds a PhD in International Relations from the University of London. It is my great pleasure to invite Dr. Simón to deliver his welcoming remarks. Luis, please.
Thank you, and good afternoon, and welcome on behalf of the Center for Security, Diplomacy and Strategy of the Brussels School of Governance. And many thanks to the European Union, by the way, for supporting this event through Inform, the Inform project, and to our partners at the International House of Japan and the Institute of Geoeconomics for co-hosting. It's also a pleasure to do this with our good friend, Hosoya Sensei. So Inform, as you may have gathered, stands for Indo-Pacific Futures Platform. The project, the Inform project, seeks to bring together key stakeholders from the European Union and the Indo-Pacific region and partner countries, like-minded countries in particular, to develop a joint analytical picture of the region. And the aim of the project is to identify and analyze sources of change in the Indo-Pacific and assess their implications for the EU and its regional partners. We've actually had a very productive closed-door session with some Japanese colleagues, both experts and officials, earlier today. And now we're very much looking forward to this public conference entitled Europe and Japan in a Changing World. We're particularly excited to be here in Tokyo today because, as Yuichi was saying, we've just established a Japan chair at CSDS in Brussels, the first on the European continent, and hopefully a stepping stone towards the further strengthening of EU-Japan and Europe-Japan relations more broadly. So I also wanted to use this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Eva Pexova for taking up the first Japan chair at CSDS. I think the relationship between the EU specifically and Japan has reached new heights in recent years, and perhaps this year in particular, following Japan's remarkable display of solidarity with Europe over Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. Of course, our main focus today is going to be the Indo-Pacific proper, but the war in Ukraine provides a background for many of the discussions we're having these days on international security as well as the future of the international order. So I think to unpack some of the key geopolitical and security trends in the Indo-Pacific and how they may intersect with Europe and the EU-Japan relationship more specifically, we could hardly ask for a better lineup. After this introductory session, and I'll promise I will shut up very quickly, we'll have opening remarks by Heitze Simmers, who is the Deputy Head of Mission of the EU delegation here in Japan. And it's a pleasure to have you, and thanks to you and your team, and also the ambassador for all your support. And after that, we'll have the privilege to hear from the Foreign Minister of Japan, Hayashi Yoshimasa. And I'd also like to use the opportunity to thank the Foreign Minister and the entire team and government of Japan by extension for their support throughout the years, including today. And then, last but by no means least, we will hear from Enrique Mora, who is Deputy Secretary General for Political Affairs and Political Director at the European External Action Service. So we're particularly delighted that we could organize this while he was here on mission in Tokyo. And following that series of remarkable keynotes, we'll then have a panel chaired by our Japan chair, Eva Pexova, and featuring distinguished speakers from both Japan and Europe. And finally, we'll switch on to an informal conversation between Eva and Yuichi on the future of the EU-Japan relationship. So that's quite a game plan for the day. I promised I would stop talking soon, and that is now. So I just want to wish you a successful event. Thank you.